State Fairgrounds at Syracuse. Welcome to the Miller American 200, the richest dirt track stock car race in the world. This will be a 200-kilometer test, 125 laps around the venerable Syracuse Mile. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Joy with the editor of Stock Car Racing magazine, Dick Berggren. This really is the Super Bowl for dirt track stock car racing.
Well, it really is, Mike. This is their Daytona 500. It's their Indianapolis 500. It is the biggest dirt track race that's run anywhere. And there's a lot of motivation to win here. Winning this thing means not only a lot of prestige, it can certainly make a driver's entire career. The winner here is going to get a 1987 Corvette, courtesy of Chevrolet. The total prize money and contingency awards available for first place are in excess of $62,000. Total prize money and contingency awards over $250,000. There's a lot of motivation to go fast here this afternoon.
Over the past 5 years, often this race has been won or lost on pit road. Let's join Jerry Garrett there.
And nobody knows that better than Bob McCreedy. Now, Bob had the fastest car in last year's race, led much of the race, but he pitted too late, ran out of laps trying to catch back up, finished third. Bob, what's your pit strategy going to be this year? Stop earlier?
A lot of it will depend on how fast the field is and how fast we are compared to it. If we're really fast, then we can pit just about any time you want. If we're slow and we're struggling and we're about even with everybody else, we'll probably pit as early as possible.
At Syracuse, New York, the field rolls off the front straightaway in the climax of a 5-day spectacular. It's an orgy of auto racing here at Syracuse, New York, much like the one that occupies a week in February at Daytona Beach. Super modified, sprint cars, small block modifieds, and these automobiles. The star attraction of Super Dirt Week in the Miller American 200, the modifieds. Set to roll for their 200-kilometer, 125-mile event. We'll look at the starting lineup. On the pole, 32.02-second time trial for Billy Pouch out of Stockton, New Jersey, the Flemington Speedway champion.
That car is entirely crewed by a volunteer group. It's owned by a mechanic and a CPA.
Ken Johnson occupies the outside pole. He's from Irwina, Pennsylvania. The 64 race team machine just 0.3 of a second off the pole speed.
Keep an eye on him. He's only run here twice. One time he finished 5th, and the other time he ran here, he flipped the car.
Brett Hearn starts in 3rd. He's the defending champion of this race, and he also won the Sun Country Cooler Super Dirt qualifying series, 6 victories in those 15 events.
He has a brand new car, and for the majority of the crowd, he is the favorite to win.
And there you see on the left of your screen the man who Hearn eclipsed last year. Bob McCreedy appeared to have the race in the bag, but as Jerry Garrett told you, meeting McCreedy early in this show, late pit stop hurt his chances. He finished 3rd. Back in 5th will be Doug Hoffman of Allentown, Pennsylvania in the 125 car, and 6th, Mike McLaughlin, an interesting story as he returns to the dirt track.
He has not raced on dirt for an entire year. The last time he did race on dirt was right here. The car is an interesting story. The front half was salvaged from a devastating wreck here, and the back half is brand new.
In the 7th spot, Lou Blaney of Hartford, Ohio. Steve Botcher of Pennsylvania will start 8th. In the 5th row, Fritz Eppright of Somerville, New Jersey, and sentimental favorite of many, Tommy Corellis from East Greenbush, New York. In row 6, Harold Bunning, 25-year racing veteran in Delaware, who'll hang up his helmet after today, and Jack Johnson, a 2-time winner, will start 12th. 13th will be Tom Mayberry with Tom Wilson 14th. The 8th row, Kevin Collins and Carl Collis, both from Pennsylvania. Canadian Harvey Haynier Jr. and John Birush from New York in the 9th row. In 10, it's Dick Larkin and Ken Bren Jr. In the 11th row, Stan Plosky Jr. from New Jersey and Charlie Rudolph of New York State. Jimmy Horton from Hamilton, New Jersey starts 23rd with Gene Vick in the 12th row. He's from Amsterdam, New York. In row 13, Chuck Akulis from Windsor, New York, and Pete McNell racing out of Canada. Dan Johnson of New York State along with Ken Tremont in row number 14. The 15th row has Joe Plazik and Rick Jeffrey. Richie Urich is in 16 along with Freddie Brightbill, with Kenny Brightbill right behind, sharing the 17th row with Alan Johnson. Wiley Will Cagle, here's a story. 18th row for Cagle. He stepped into this car at the last minute.
He did, and he got the thing in the program. This car first ran here in 1980 and absolutely devastated the field. It was 2 seconds faster than anybody else. It created a set of rules that have caused the modifieds to look the way they do now. They have reworked it, and Cagle got it in the field.
Cagle is 35th. He shares that 18th row with Rich Burgess. Mike Romano and Brian Stevens in the 19th row. 39th and 40th, Frank Cozy and Maynard Ferret. Then it's Gary Golub and C.D. Coville, Eddie Marshall and Chuck McKee in row 22, Carl Fuzzy Van Horn with Jack Cottrell, Kevin Bullen and Davey Moore. They came in through the semifinal events. And this morning, the consolation race Dave Lape, Mike Barlow, and Mark Fleury qualified, and the final spot went to a driver not otherwise qualified through vote of the press. Don McGuinness got the nod, and he'll be way back, shotgun on the field, 52nd starting position.
It's a long ways to go from the back of that pack. This is one of the biggest starting fields in all of automobile racing.
There's the pole sitter, Billy Pouch, who blistered around this racetrack at 32.02 seconds. And if you can win this auto race, for these drivers, it's like winning Daytona. The names that went to victory lane in the early years: Buzzy Rudiman, first-time winner and two-time winner; Billy Osmond, Dick Tobias, Gary Ballou, Jack Johnson, Merv Treichler, Alan Johnson, and last year Brett Hearn. It's kind of like a Hall of Fame of dirt track racing. If you win Syracuse, you've had a good year, no matter what else happened.
You may have had a good career, never mind a good year, Mike. This is definitely the pinnacle for all of these people. This is certainly the most important race of the year for every driver on the speedway right now.
One driver making a late stop. That's a look at Corellis, Tommy Corellis' car, as he moves up and into position once again, as we're getting just a lap away from the start here at Syracuse, New York. There's the Corvette pace car that awaits the winner, leaving the field past as they're up into turn number 3. And next time past, they will be looking for the green flag. Last year's race went to Hearn after McCreedy led 59 laps, made a late pit stop, could not come back up through the field. He wound up third. Hearn the winner. 2 years ago, Jack Johnson led 87 of the race's 125 laps on the way to victory. In 1983, Merv Treichler, Alan Johnson, Pete Bicknell all led 20 laps or more. There's a look back in the field. That's the car of Jimmy Horton, hoping to come up from a successful career as a small block modified, a 320 cubic inch modified racer, and do well here at Syracuse.
Alan Johnson is going to have to start absolutely scratch on the field. While the field was forming up, Johnson decided to have consultation with his pit crew. He pulled into the pit area. He is now going to be the last man on the field. He is a former winner here, and that car really goes well. So he's got his work cut out for him, but he's still got a possibility of winning.
There is Alan Johnson moving along. He will now be in the 52nd position as he pulls up there next to Mark Fleury. We'll have a long way to go and 125 laps to get there. The cars must make one pit stop. Be interesting to see the strategy employed, early or late. Take on 2 tires, 3, or perhaps none at all. Go out and try to outlast the field, or wait, stop late as McCreedy did last year, and then try to blast your way through the pack. It's a sprint race. It's a strategy race. There's Mike McLaughlin, the black car on the outside of the screen. The dirt driver turned asphalt driver. Now he's back on dirt as he lines up against Doug Hoffman. Here comes the field for 125 laps of racing. Green flag flies. It's going to be Pouch and Hearn down into turn number 1. Billy Pouch, the pole sitter, leads on the brake. They're 2, occasionally 3 wide, heading off into that turn 1. It's like coming down an airport runway and turning left into the width of a single-car garage to get through the first corner here. They're in 3. Pouch is the leader. Hearn right with him. And back in 3rd, Ken Johnson is in the 3rd spot. In 4th is Doug Hoffman. And in 5th, Bob McCreedy. To lead the first lap, Billy Pouch with Brett Hearn. They're back in turn 1. Still single file back through about the 12th position.
Most of the field has now sorted out. This is not an easy racetrack to pass on. You certainly do not want to go through the 2nd corner and probably not even into the 3rd corner side by side with anybody. So there is a lot of shuffling on the restarts and, of course, on the original start as well for people to try to fall into line here.
There's the advantage, 2 by 2 off the 4th corner. Pouch with Hearn. There's the front pairing as they come down the front straightaway. Back in 3rd, Ken Johnson. There's a look at Pouch as he got inside a little too close in turn 1. Almost scraped the rail. You saw him have to change his line, and as he did so and corrected, the car got way loose on him. Hearn sits 10 car lengths behind. It's another 12 lengths back to the 3rd spot. Ken Johnson. There's Johnson, and you see moving into the screen, number 125, Doug Hoffman, trying to move up and challenge for that 3rd spot. 3rd and 4th coming off the corner. Horton, the winner of 2 qualifying races on the season. He's in that white 125. He has started 4 times among the top 6 here as the first 6 fastest cars qualify on the first day of time trials. The white car with the yellow roof right side of your screen is Bob McCreedy. He's the 5th place machine.
You can see how these cars lean going through the corners. The suspensions are very washy in them, and the object of these drivers is to try to get the car to lean over on the right rear tire, and they really do run pretty much off the right rear tire.
Third, fourth, and fifth. Ken Johnson heading Doug Hoffman and Bob McCreedy. Here's McCreedy looking to the outside as Hoffman moves up and challenges for third. They almost rub wheels going into the corner. Sideways goes Hoffman to the outside. He draws even as they come off two. Out into turn number 3, and Hoffman moves up and garners the third spot.
And he really did it the hard way. There is no more difficult place to pass at this racetrack than doing what Hoffman just accomplished. That proves Hoffman is hooked up.
Hoffman now third on the left side of your screen. Here's a look at the leader once again, Billy Pauch, the Flemington Speedway champion for 1986. He won the Flemington qualifying race there. Alan Johnson, who started back in 52nd spot after making that consultation stop before the green flag, has gone past 10 machines. That's how difficult it is to pass here. He was 52nd. He is up to 42nd and still has a long way to go. There's the man they call A.J. Slideways, Alan Johnson, the 1983 winner here at Syracuse. He won a qualifying race at Rolling Wheels Raceway and had 2 runner-up finishes in the qualifying trail.
It's a brand new automobile. They started building that thing around Labor Day weekend. They didn't want to get going on it until the absolute last race before this one had been run. They wanted to steal everybody's ideas, and that is what they have incorporated into that 14J.
There's the separation. Billy Pauch back to Brett Hearn, first to second. Third place car is now Doug Hoffman. Ken Johnson dropping to fourth. Back into the corner. Pauch, thus far uncontested, got a good break on the start, and you see this time he's entering turn 1, perhaps 2 or 3 feet away from that rail.
Interesting story on that car, Mike. A month ago, that automobile was in the barn as a bare frame. The crew went to work on it, and it took them a little bit longer to do things than they thought it might. Last week, in fact, they really weren't quite finished with the car, and on Tuesday night of last week, they had fully 22 people all working on the car at one time. The car owner said this thing looked like a General Motors assembly line with all these people trying to assemble it at one time.
Billy Pauch once said running a race at Syracuse is akin to having a root canal. He's not finished well here. Here's McCreedy on the way up. McCreedy running in the 5th spot. As well documented, led a lot of the race here last year, didn't win it, wound up 3rd. Very radical approach. As this racetrack surface has dictated, he's made wholesale changes on that race car this weekend. We'll talk more about that in a moment as the leader gets into race traffic. Billy Pauch catching some of the tail enders in the field. And this is where things get very tricky. There is Don McGinnis' car that the leader is seeking the lap. And we'll look for the 2nd place machine of Brett Hearn. There is Pauch going off the screen. 25 car lengths is his advantage over Brett Hearn. A lot of smoke out of one car. That's Plazik, the number 1A of Joe Plazik. Appears he may be the first car out of the Miller 200.
That pile of smoke ordinarily means that an engine has expired. Those engines, by the way, are worth about $18,000 or $19,000, and when they go up in that much smoke, there is, generally speaking, very little that can be saved from it.
Plazik doesn't even go to pit road. He heads right for the garage. Mark Fleury is the 52 car. The leader is seeking to pass, and here is Brett Hearn. Hearn makes a break for the lead in traffic, as Pauch's lead simply evaporated. You see quickly as he gets past Fleury, and now Hearn's 2nd spot is in doubt. Hoffman is there. Mark Fleury, the moving chicane in front of the 2nd place car. Around comes Hearn, and he will hold on to that 2nd slot, but Hoffman gave him quite a struggle as they tried to lap past Mark Fleury. There's a look at Hearn, the 2nd place machine. He's won virtually everything in dirt track racing this year, 32 feature victories. Coming into the Miller 200 in 1986. Pauch on your left, Hearn the right side of your screen. 1 lap car separate them. There is Hoffman in the 125. Doug Hoffman trying to come up and challenge the Nazareth Speedway champion for 1986. Hoffman in car 125, a brand new Olson chassis and 100 horsepower.
And a man named Bud Olson has got to be watching this with great interest. He built both of those cars, the number 20 and the number 125. They are both essentially identical automobiles, and both of those drivers are factory drivers. They do a lot of testing for that car manufacturer.
Hearn's car, the primary Olson House car, holding on to that second slot. There is Brett Hearn. Heavy race traffic still awaits the leader. When 52 cars start, that is bound to be the order of the day for much of the race, even on a track as large as Syracuse. One of the few opportunities that these drivers get to run on a 1-mile racetrack are the 3 events here annually. Here's Alan Johnson, who has climbed his way up into the 30s in the running order. Billy Taylor, the crew chief for Alan Johnson. What a talented man, helped Jeff Bodine to many, many NASCAR modified victories on pavement. Now crews for Alan Johnson, who also has Hutter power. There is Steve Botcher on pit road, the 97 car, early in the event. Perhaps too early. Interesting story on that car.
Yeah, it sure is, and there's an interesting story on yet another car. Horton has gone in the pits, and he is parked.
This car, I understand, is owned by a fellow who hit the lottery and went racing.
He sure did. That's what he did with his lottery money, Mike. He went out and bought the car and decided this is time to go have a good time with it. This is the way he chose to have his fun.
Tough break for Jimmy Horton, the Granbury and Grampian 5-mile point qualifying winner. The pole winner here in 1982 has had his car pushed to the garage area. Billy Pouch continues to lead. Brett Hearn, though, is having the pressure applied. Doug Hoffman is the man, and Hoffman in that 125 car, the Nazareth champion, trying to take over second spot. Here's the race leader, Billy Pouch, about to get back into traffic, and caution is on the speedway. There's a look at Brett Hearn as he rounds past Brian Stevens on the way to the caution flag. One car is very slow against the apron in turn 4. That's the reason for the caution.
Now, this is only early in the race. It's too early in the race, in fact, for anybody to really want to make their pit stop. You can pretty well count on everybody making one stop and one stop only. And a good place to start looking for it is not too far from now. They've got a window that most of these competitors have decided they can use. They can't pit too early. They can't pit too late.
That looks like Gary Gollub's car that is parked at the entrance of turn number 4. And that will take Gollub from the race, the number 95 machine. Pace car is in. Hard on the throttle comes Hearn. You see the dirt fly out of turn number 4. Hearn is going to have 2 lapped cars separating him from the field as he comes down the front straightaway, and we're back under green. Alan Johnson will go a lap down as he's made a pit stop under the caution, in a tangle as they get down into the corner. A mad scramble at turn 1. Everybody breaks through.
Well, barely. They were 4 or 5 wide going through that first corner at one point.
Into turn number 3, Pouch on the advantage. He has enjoyed it since they dropped the green flag, starting from the pole. Here's Harold Bunning, and he has come through the pack in a hurry. Bunning, 25 years in racing, who'll hang up his helmet at the end of the season. He's the champion at both Georgetown tracks this year, US 13, or both Delaware tracks, that is. He's got a brand new Olson car, and he runs in the 5th position. So Bunning has moved up from his 11th place starting spot now to run in 5th.
He's highly motivated to do well here. Not only does he drive this automobile, but he also prepares it. He's got a little bit of volunteer help, but the majority of the work is done by him. He goes to work during the day at 7 o'clock in the morning, gets out at 5 in the afternoon, goes to work on the race car until the middle of the night every day. He says, I'm getting too old for this.
And he's hard on the back bumper of Bob McCreedy. 4th place car. Just ahead is Doug Hoffman, and Hoffman's having trouble with a lapper. McCreedy almost got underneath the white and blue 125 of Hoffman.
McCreedy is working well. He was not happy with the way that car was performing after re-skinning that automobile. He said that they just were not as fast as they were with this same car last year. He had a definite edge with it last year, but not this year. This year, the guy with the edge unequivocally is Billy Pouch on the point, and he is pulling away from the pack.
Pouch qualified on the pole, but he has never finished this race. 25th in 1984 is his best placing. There is Hoffman riding 3rd, coming off the corner and into the straightaway, and caution is flying once again. Richie Burgess against the fence at turn number 4. That'll bring out the 2nd caution flag of the day. Burgess, many people had high hopes for him today, getting caught up in a melee of cars and winding up against the fence. up in the fourth corner. Burgess, a qualifying race winner at Middletown, New York, on the road to Syracuse.
He may be able to keep going. That car doesn't really look very badly damaged. He's trying it now, shaking it down a little bit to see if he can still steer it properly. It's amazing how much courage some of these people have. They can hit a wall like that, and then when the green flag drops, it's the first time to test and see if everything is okay.
Lou Blaney pulls on to pit road, and looks as if Blaney's day is done, unhooking the snap on the helmet.
And that's really a shame. Blaney thought he had a legitimate shot to win it. He does not have many more years in which he can compete here at Syracuse. He is 46 years old. His best finished ever was a 6th. And they tried a really trick deal with his car. He has one of the very few small blocks that even attempted to make the race here. It's a 422 cubic inch engine, a special deal made with one of the major motor builders. He really thought that thing was going to work and win the race.
Getting set for the restart as they line up double file. On the pole, where he's been all day, Billy Pouch. On the outside, Brett Hearn, last year's winner. Riding third is Doug Hoffman, whose best finish here was third 1 year ago. Getting set for the restart. Looks like we have 44 of the original 52 cars remaining. Down the front straightaway, we'll look for green.
And they're going to lap Carl Collis, who is stuck in the pits as this restart takes place.
Pouch heads them off into turn 1. Brett Hearn is there. He holds the second spot, beating Hoffman into the corner. Fourth is McCreedy as they head up the back straightaway. And McCreedy loses a bit of ground, a car length or so. Hoffman in third, chasing Brett Hearn. Something he's had to do, and so has everybody else for most of this season.
It's interesting, they both come out of the same factory, but neither driver knows the other's setup. They do not communicate what they are doing except to their car builder, who is very selective about what he tells each driver from his bank of knowledge.
And McCreedy is right there with him. That's second, third, and fourth, with Bob McCreedy, the Canandaigua champion of 1986, riding in the fourth spot.
Also the guy with least sleep of any driver in the field. They stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning last night going through that car just to be sure nothing had gone wrong during practice. They took it all apart, put it all back together again. He really wants to win this thing.
What was it once said about winning being 90% preparation and 10% perspiration?
Yeah, well, they are not afraid to put the perspiration in it, and you can count on that for sure. Brett Hearn is another fellow that works real hard with his team.
Here's Billy Pouch. He is alone at the front of the field, and coming on to pit road is Bunning. This would not be a scheduled pit stop. These drivers would want to make those stops under the caution flag if possible. You saw the crew chief throw his arms in the air. Was that an explosion gesture or just one of helplessness and frustration? We'll find out in a moment from Jerry Garrett. Leader takes it back into turn 1. That's Pouch. Hearn holding second. Hoffman is third. McCreedy continues to ride in fourth. Out of turn number 2, up the back straightaway. Pouch's advantage now 2.6 seconds on this pack of cars as Hoffman looks to the inside on Hearn. Nothing there going into turn 3. McCreedy in fourth, holding his position, having the best look at this, and there's a crash in the back straightaway. We're under yellow again. And through the dust, 3 cars have settled, and 1 straddles the fence on the inside of the back straightaway. In turn 1, yet another car has gone hard into the rail, as this will bring the third caution of the day. There are 2 wheels and tires sitting out on the racetrack, and there is the car that sits straddle on the fence. We believe that is Chuck McKee's automobile. The number 19 car sitting atop the fence, middle of the back straightaway. He is one of what looks like 3 cars that are there. Over in turn 1, there the driver is being attended by the safety crews. He is okay.
Have got automobiles all over this racetrack. If you wonder about how difficult the situation this is for the teams, figure that one of these automobiles is worth about $35,000 to $40,000. When they get bent like this, very often the money stuff is what gets hurt.
Syracuse is the richest of the dirt track races for the modifieds. It is also the most prestigious. Only one man can win it and go home with the huge pot of gold, and so many cars on this track they call the Moody Mile for the way it changes during the course of the race, yet so many cars go home wadded up in a ball.
There's a lot of money at stake here, so they try especially hard. The total value, dollar value of the amount of equipment at the start of this race, Mike, is about $1.5 million.
Pit stops are the order of the day. The leaders are in. Here is McCreedy and the Johnson car, Jack Johnson, driving for Gene DeWitt, are the first of the two leaders to make pit stops. McCreedy slides to a halt, and you'll watch them put a right rear tire on that car and fuel. A complete reverse of his strategy 1 year ago, where McCreedy led the race, was the last of the leaders to stop. Here's Jack Johnson getting a new left rear and the dry brake fueling system. One of the few opportunities these teams have to make a pit stop under race conditions during the whole season.
They don't have much chance to practice this sort of thing. Only a few races give them this opportunity, but the pits are now beginning to fill up. Several other competitors up pit road are doing this. Jack Johnson is the first of the early leaders to break out of the pits. He has beaten McCreedy out of the pits. In fact, McCreedy behind Johnson had stalled his car. McCreedy is now going, but Johnson has beaten him out of the pits. Danny Johnson also into the pits. Up further as well is Kenny Tremont.
There's Harvey Haynier, Chuck Kukulis, all making pit stops. Alan Johnson for the second time. Fuzzy Van Horn. Here's Alan Johnson coming off the pit lane. He is already a lap down. He pitted under the last caution and did not anticipate the green flag coming out when it did, and lost a lap. So of the front five, McCreedy has made a pit stop, and Jack Johnson we've not seen much of today, as they're going to red flag this race perhaps, as they're having quite a bit of trouble getting past the cars on the back straightaway as the wreckers try and do their work. Set for the restart. Billy Pouch trying to head them out of turn number 4 down to the green flag, and this time he's got company. On the outside, Brett Hearn tries to take the lead away into turn number 1, jumps into the slot right between Pouch and Hoffman.
He was lucky Hoffman didn't close the door on him there. He could have stuck him right outside in the loose stuff, and that certainly would have cost him a position. Here comes Hoffman on the inside now in the backstretch. Hoffman making a move for second position, Mike.
Hoffman returns the favor. He takes second away from Hearn, and the crowd goes wild. Pouch the leader off turn number 4. Now the second place machine is Hoffman. Hearn back to third. None of these cars have made a stop, and again we have caution. We lasted just 2 laps under the green, as caution is out now for the 4th time today, and one car is against the fence, and that looks like one of the 11 machines. That looks like Davey Moore. Davey Moore, the Canadian Blast as he's called, came out of the consolation, or the qualifying semifinal race. There is Davey Moore against the wall. This is the 4th caution of the day, and it looks like many of the leaders may take this opportunity to pit. Here comes Hearn. He's blasting down the pit lane.
He was absolutely sideways going down pit road. Hearn now ready to take on a set of tires. Look how nicely he stopped. He did. He got the back end of that car real close to his guys, so they didn't have to go as far as they might have.
Did you used to do that on your bicycle, lock up the brake and, slide the rear wheel?
These guys are intense enough. Believe it or not, this is a dirt pit road, and they swept it with a broom this morning.
Now, this is a team that gets a lot of pit stop experience. Hearn runs a few races on the NASCAR Grand National Sportsman Circuit, so they are experienced at changing tires under pressure.
And they also learned a bitter lesson here about 4 years ago when they lost this race on pit road. They will not screw up on pit road this time. Hearn is out and running.
Good pit stop for Hearn. You won't see the 14-second stops here that you do in NASCAR racing. We'll take a closer look at these cars a bit later on and show you why. Hearn out of the pits, moving along, but we're back under green, and Hearn is going to get left behind as Billy Pouch leads Doug Hoffman to turn 1.
Yeah, just as the leaders were going into turn 1, Hearn was only about a third of the way down the backstretch. He is about 3/4 of a lap behind the leaders.
He will need to catch a caution to catch back up. There is Bob McCreedy. McCreedy, who stopped under that first, or rather the 3rd caution, the first of the front cars to pit, is already back up into the top 10.
But I worry about him. He stopped so early, Mike, he may not have enough fuel to absolutely run the distance. He has one of the most powerful engines in the field, and power translates into fuel consumption. So we'll watch and see if McCreedy will have enough gas to go all the way.
Bob McCreedy on the way up. He is now the 7th place car. trying to move up, and a big pile in turns 1 and 2. 3, 4 cars perhaps are in it. Make that 5. This track shows no mercy.
Yeah, that's Ken Bren sitting there. He said he's really got to finish. When Bren finishes, he seems to finish in the top 5, but apparently not today. Although he is moving, he's able to move the car back.
That crash in turn number 2 brings out the 5th caution flag of the day. And virtually anyone here could pit now and then go the distance. Also involved, there's the 444, that's Brian Stevens. And the number 3, I believe that's Chuck Akulis' machine. Among the crashed cars at turns 1 and 2. We're under caution. Let's go to Jerry Garrett on pit road.
Well, Mike, we've been polling some of the crew chiefs down here to see if they think Bob McCreedy stopped too early. McCready's crew says no, they figure there's going to be a lot of yellows today. They'll be able to save some gas as a result of that. That's why they stopped early. The other crew chiefs think that might be true.
I wonder, Dick. There's Maynard Ferret on pit road, making his mandatory stop. Ferret, very popular win in one of yesterday's semifinal races.
Corellis has just come into the pits.
Tommy Corellis among the front runners on pit road. Tom Wilson as well. You're looking at Corellis as his Lebanon Valley, New York crew come out and attend to that machine. Now you see the center of these wheels. The bolt pattern on these cars are very, very wide. And even though they glue the lug nuts on, much like the NASCAR teams do, it is not a quick matter to change these big, huge steamroller tires, get that wrench all the way in there, get it on the lug nuts, so you won't see the 14-second pit stops here that you do in NASCAR racing.
As modified, or as modern as these cars are, that bolt pattern evolved from a 1937 Ford when this kind of racing very first began. There goes Corellis out. His stop is now complete. Corellis is one of the more interesting characters here. He's 45 years old. He says he hopes to race here 5 more years at least. There is perhaps nobody that wants to win this race more than he has run every single one of these events except one. He only missed 1 out of 15 years.
Here's a look at Kevin Collins, number 24 car, as he came off pit road. His car owner is in the hotel today. He injured his back, and missing this race hurts him more than his back does. Here's the race leader, Billy Pauch, and Hoffman pits right with him. They're pitted almost nose to tail. We'll see who gets the quicker pit stop, because if you can pass somebody coming out of the pits, it's an awful lot easier than having to try to beat them into turn 1.
That first picture made it appear as if there may have been some safety vehicles in front of those cars. That is not correct. They have a clear road to get out, except for the fact that Pauch is so far down pit road he has to make a very hard right-hand turn to properly get out. On the other hand, Hoffman, who is pitting behind him, will more easily be able to get out of pit road. Hoffman taking rear tires on his automobile.
And here's Charlie Rudolph also making a pit stop at the same time. Hoffman gets out of the pit lane, and he beats Billy Pauch down pit road and away. So Hoffman picks up that spot, and as we saw, he couldn't get past Pauch on the racetrack. Doing it on pit road, that's going to be a big boost to his crew and to his chances today.
It is. Pit stops are ever so important here, Mike. In the last several years, this race has as much been won on pit road as it has been won on the speedway. Strategy very, very important.
Ken Johnson is now the leader. Johnson has not made his pit stop. The number 64 machine, he's the front runner. He's riding there with Kevin Boland as they're formed up for the restart. Won't be this time passed, but perhaps yet another lap as the safety crews take the last of the cars off the speedway, and we'll be ready in a moment to go back to racing. They form up with Ken Johnson, the leader. Mike McLaughlin is second. Bob McCreedy is third. Back in the 4th spot is Dan Johnson. In 5th is Jack Johnson. Back in the 6th position, looking at Rick Jeffrey, and in 7th, they're showing C.D. Coville. Alan Johnson is in there. He's the 9th place machine. He did not lose a lap earlier, as we had thought.
He was just pushed to the back of the pack, Mike, when he made that pit stop.
On the break, looking at McCreedy, challenging McLaughlin hard for 2nd. And for the front spot, there is that 64 car. That is Ken Johnson with McCreedy. The lapped car of Kevin Boland got away. That's the front car on your screen.
McCready was one of the first to pit. Don't forget, he has worked his way all the way through the pack to get here. Johnson has not yet pitted. He must pit. The rules require it. He will not be able to go the distance on the fuel that these cars carry.
McCreedy hounding the rear bumper.
Boy, he's all over him.
And so too there is Mike McLaughlin. These are the front four cars. The car that broke away from the pack, there's that red 777 of Kevin Bolin, is just shy of being a lap down.
Get a close look at McCready's car. He is absolutely encapsulated in sheet metal. They really closed him up to try to get the air to slide through the car. Last year they tried to get the air to push the car down. This year he's trying to slice through it. Look at that. It's all sheet metal inside that automobile. You can barely see him sticking out of all that material.
That's the number 9 car of McCready, the white, yellow-roofed machine, as he tried to drift underneath. Ken Johnson in the corner, nothing there. McLaughlin in third, and here's a look at Brett Hearn. Hearn is trying to steam his way back up through the field. He was last reported at about 9th position. He has climbed 2 spots since then, and now runs right on the back bumper of Wiley Will Cagle.
Look at that. Isn't that something? That car devastated everybody here back in 1980. It has not really done anything in Syracuse since, although they've brought it back on several occasions.
Cagle has finished second here and third twice and fourth once. He has run 12 of the 14 annual races here to date, and this could be his final one.
And wouldn't it be something if he won this race? This is about the only big dirt track race in the whole world that Will Cagle has not won.
Cagle in the Ferriulo 73 is the 7th place car. Brett Hearn currently posted in 8th. And a moment ago we saw Billy Pouch's number 5 trying to climb back up through traffic after late pit stop. Challenge for the lead. McCready on the inside. He may get it going into turn number 1 as Johnson has to give way. And McCready goes to the front of the pack, a place he enjoyed more laps than anyone else last year.
If it had not been for that pit stop, he may well have won it. Look at him open that lead. McCready absolutely flying. He says that he can only use about 80% of the horsepower that car has got. Ron Hunter built him one of the most powerful dirt track engines ever constructed just for this race. He said, if I could only get a little more of it down on the ground, I could fly. Well, he's done it. He's flying.
He's got one of the Hunter house motors today, and Ron Hunter, Gene DeWitt, patron of the late Richie Evans and now of Jack Johnson on dirt, a longtime Hunter supporter, helped bring him to prominence, and there are Hunter power plants under many of the top cars in this field, including right now the leader. Here's second through fourth as Ken Johnson struggles to hold the second spot against the onslaught of Mike McLaughlin. And right with McLaughlin, that looks like Danny Johnson's car. Second, third, and fourth in doubt. That is Danny Johnson riding in fourth. Moving up to Mike McLaughlin. McLaughlin, you saw him hit a crater there going into the corner. The right front really dropped.
You can see the light spots on the racetrack that puff dust. Those are holes beginning to develop in the racetrack where the surface has worn away from the pounding of the race car's tires.
Trouble in turn 2. 2 cars, and one goes end over end. And oh, that's Hoffman. Doug Hoffman, one of the pre-race favorites who ran so well here, ends up on his roof at turn 2 in a violent crash.
What a ride he took.
Climbing out of the second car involved is Harvey Haynier. Car number 11J, the front of that car demolished, and immediately he ran to the aid of Hoffman, with other cars still going past and the safety personnel not yet able to cross the track. We'll take another look at it here. And already Hoffman.
Oh, there goes Hoffman. Yeah, he's doing a side roll already. He's already been over. The car is well bent at this point. Hoffman now coming back up onto the side of the car. He apparently caught Mike Romano's wheel. These cars are open wheel, and boy, when you catch a wheel, it just tosses the car around. He went end over end at least 3 times before you saw what's happened here. The car is really bent. Hoffman in a bad crash in the second turn at Syracuse.
6th caution flag of the day. Most of the leaders have made their pit stops. Ken Johnson has not. He held the lead until Bob McCready blasted past and took off on the back straightaway. We'll also look for Mike McLaughlin perhaps to pit this round. Danny Johnson as well has not been to the pit lane. C.D. Colville is posted as the 5th place car right now. He has made a pit stop already, and he'll make another one. Here is McLaughlin on the pit lane as we watch Bob McCready come past under caution.
Ken Johnson is also on pit road, Mike. This will mean now just about everybody has made their pit stop. Here's Ken Johnson doing his pit stop. This will be the same stop essentially that everybody has done. Everybody has had the same strategy here in terms of what to do when they get to pit road. They are all changing the 2 rear tires. Those are the bite tires. Those are the tires that make the car go forward. A lot of racing, you'll see they'll change the front tires as well. Not so here. There's not much pressure on them. The engines are way in the back in these cars for adhesion and for bite. So it's the rear tires that are critical here, and that's what they're changing, and filling the tank with fuel as well.
Well, in NASCAR racing, usually they'll change left or right side tires on the big, heavy Winston Cup cars. But Harry Hyde, crew chief for Tim Richmond this year, perhaps took a page from dirt track racing, and on several occasions, he has changed the rear tires of the car rather than adjusting the stagger right to left.
The size of those rear tires is really critical for getting the car around the corner. The effect is that they've got a solid axle between the 2 rear tires, and the left rear is always a little bit smaller than the right. And if you get the ratio between the left rear and the right rear exactly correct, that's the fastest way around the racetrack, but getting it exactly correct is a tall order. When you change both of those tires at the same time and start with 2 new ones, well, that just sort of increases the odds that you're going to do it right. New tires do tend to change size when they are first put on the car.
Mike McLaughlin has made his pit stop, so has Kenny Johnson. And as happened to Bob McCreedy last year, I would think it would be extremely difficult for anybody to make a pit stop this late in the race and work their way back up through the pack to win. Here we're looking at Doug Hoffman's car as the wrecker picks it up by the roll cage.
That was a brand new car at the start of the race. This had never run on a speedway before.
And may never again.
Well, it's amazing what they can do to these cars, Mike. They're mostly of tubular construction, and as you can see, despite the fact that he went end over end and side over side and went down the wall with it, the basic structural integrity of the car remains. Now, those things get bent for sure, but they can do an awful lot with an automobile as destroyed as that. They'll strip it down to the bare frame, put it on a frame machine, cut out some of the bent and broken parts, straighten the rest of them, and put it all back together again.
Here's another look at how it came to be that way as they lift the bumper away and put it in the truck. The car has already been over at least once, slides along on the right side, and comes to rest. Excuse me, it's already been over at least 3 times before it settles down on its route.
Left front wheel is gone already as well.
We're set to go back to green. McCreedy is the man with the lead as they come off turn number 4 and race toward the start-finish line. Bob McCreedy, who made his pit stop very early in this event, perhaps even too early, in a complete reversal of his 1985 strategy that saw him lead the most laps but finish 3rd.
Look what a nice job he does going through the corners to miss the bumps, Mike. He was inside one set and he went right over the top of another set, so he never put a wheel in one of the bumps. And that is part of being able to go fast on a dirt track. You cannot run any place you might like. You have got to stay out of the bumps.
Battle back. There is Tommy Corellis trying to hold off a charge, and Corellis, who started 10th, running well. He's the 4th place car. He's defending that position against pole sitter Billy Pouch and Brett Hearn, who is 6th. Corellis in 57, right up against the back bumper of Jack Johnson. Brett Hearn is there as well with Pouch.
These cars do not have rear view mirrors, so he can't see Pouch back there. He doesn't exactly know where Pouch is unless he can hear the motor a little bit. But for sure he knows that he's got some company on the back bumper.
And interesting, these cars run mufflers. It's a very sophisticated muffler system that takes the edge off the sound without costing these cars a lot of horsepower. But unlike many forms of auto racing that run unmuffled, it may be a little harder here to hear somebody as they come up behind you.
Well, it's a good neighbor muffler, actually. When you get really close to the cars, they sound almost as loud as they would without the mufflers. But a half a mile away where there might be houses, the mufflers really work, and it really dulls the sound of the engines.
There is Pouch working over Corellis, Hearn looking on. Battle for 4th position here. Inside goes Pouch, and he takes the lane away from Corellis.
Corellis just slipped for a very brief moment, and you cannot do that when Pouch is behind you.
Corellis just jumped right back in line, and he finds Brett Hearn alongside. In the battle for 5th spot, Pouch has 4th. Corellis trying to hold off Hearn for 5th. Hearn tries to shove his way, needle his way to the inside. Can't do it there. Back straightaway. Hearn again goes to the inside. Corellis tries to come down and slam the door on him going into turn 3, and he does so for the moment.
battle going on back here. This is really fun racing. And you better believe the drivers enjoy this kind of thing. It is just no fun to be out there all by yourself. They love this kind of stuff.
There is Billy Pouch. He is now the 4th place car. Here's your leader, Bob McCreedy. McCreedy well out in front in the back straightaway. Heading into turn number 3. McCreedy coming off 4. Back to the front straightaway once again. We're halfway in the Miller American 200. Bob McCreedy trying to drive toward victory lane. Running in second, Danny Johnson. Johnson 2.7 seconds behind the race leader. There's a look at Johnson as he heads out of turn number 2 into the back straightaway. Danny, there's a car that if it had a little more sponsorship, a lot of people think he could do great things. He certainly seems to have the driving talent.
He's a great driver. He generally has tended to race under the shadow of his brother, Alan Johnson, but he's a wonderful competitor. He just has not had the capital behind him that's been necessary to go first class. And when you see the chrome on so many of these cars, Johnson's car just doesn't have it. In place of chrome, he's got rust.
Yeah, but ask fellas like Lenny Moore or the late Richie Evans. It don't go faster with chrome. Here's the 3rd place battle. Jack Johnson, and Pouch is coming back up through the field. He is 4th, and he's right on the back bumper of the 3rd place car.
Running well, too. Look at this. He's closing on him, Mike.
Well, Hutter power, or rather Jack Tant power now for Jack Johnson as Billy Pouch comes along up and underneath. Now looking to the outside. Now drifting back in the draft of Johnson. And the roofs on these cars, angled as they are, must create quite a vacuum behind them.
They really do. You can't actually slingshot past another car by using that vacuum as you can on a super speedway, but it does create some turbulence for the cars behind them. Incidentally, the roof is the only part of the body of these cars that are manufactured. The rest of it is all hand done by the teams themselves in their own shops.
These cars used to be modified versions of street compact cars, and before that, the coupe-bodied automobiles. Then they went to Ford Falcons and Chevy Corvairs and other small bodies, and then to the Pintos, Vegas, and Gremlins. But the AMC Gremlin roof, that is the only shape of a passenger automobile that remains on these cars today. Looking back up front here is McCready. And boy, has he stepped out a lead, trying to maintain it, though, over the distance. Everybody will be counting and just listening to the sound of that exhaust to see if it burps in the closing stages from perhaps having made that stop too early. He's increasing his advantage, though, 3.8 seconds. McCready now leads Danny Johnson.
Lap after lap, he manages to avoid those holes. It's just ever so pretty to watch him going through the corners, staying clear of any kind of anything that would upset the balance of the car.
Here's a look at the 7th place car, Tommy Wilson. Again, trying to come up. He made a pit stop right about in the middle of when all the leaders went to the pit lane. So he's running comfortably in the 7th spot. Here's Alan Johnson, though, who is closed from 8th position. Johnson's made up about 10 car lengths in the last lap or 2, and shortly that man will be on for 7th spot. Alan Johnson has had some success here at Syracuse, the 1983 winner of this event, but the track turned on him. Last year he finished dead last. There's McCready. He's about 3.8 seconds ahead now.
See the nose of that car, Mike, how it almost comes into a V kind of shape. That's a little bit different than everybody else has.
There's Billy Pouch, and Pouch has now climbed the ladder up to 3rd, displacing Jack Johnson, the orange car behind him. Johnson rides in 4th. Another look at Pouch. 3rd place machine. He was the pole sitter and led up until his pit stop. You saw him bounce through the craters there coming off turn 2. And he'll begin to put the heat on Danny Johnson here in a moment.
His crew races for a hobby. Their real goal for the year, this with a CPA on the team, is to break even if they possibly can. This kind of racing is very expensive. They figured they spent about $10,000 to come here just to run this one event.
For one race.
One race alone.
Billy Pouch bounces through the corner, tries to avoid the chuck hole at the turn. McCready putting a lap on one of the slower cars, coming around and toward the front straightaway once again. He pitted on lap 30. This was a 125 lap race, and there's the nose of McCready's car Dick spoke of with the offset radiator intake.
Last year he had a very different kind of nose, and an awful lot of people brought cars to Syracuse this year that copied that. So McCreedy decided, well, he couldn't keep doing the same thing he had done before, and he completely changed the style of the nose this year, and it is not as effective as what he came with in 1985.
But McCreedy now leads by 5 seconds over Danny Johnson, who will be trying to hold off pole sitter Billy Pouch. Back in fourth, Jack Johnson, and in fifth, Tommy Corellis. And Corellis, his home track, Lebanon Valley, New York, the promoter there has posted a $5,000 bonus if one of his regular drivers can win here in Syracuse.
Well,
let's go to Jerry Garrett on pit road.
Well, Mike, we're still playing the guessing game down here along with everybody else as to whether McCreedy stopped too early. His crew tells us the fuel mileage they calculated the early going indicates that they're okay, especially with the number of yellow flags that they've got. They're running laps at about 32.5 seconds, and they're picking up anywhere from a half second to a full second a lap on Billy Pouch. Now, we talked to Brett Hearn's crew, and they say there's no way that they get that kind of gas mileage out of McCready's car. They believe that McCready's going to run out of gas before this is over if he doesn't stop.
They believe and they hope. But here is McCreedy. And I'm not surprised that he changed his strategy from last year, but I am surprised that he completely reversed it.
Well, before the race, he said he had to stop at about lap 30. He couldn't stop before lap 30, but they're really guessing as to what the fuel economy is going to be. They don't know. They don't get enough opportunity on this racetrack to really thoroughly meter the amount of fuel these cars are going to consume. They don't know what the traffic's going to be like. They don't know how many yellow flags they're going to get. So it is very much a guessing game as to how the fuel is going to work.
Here's the second place battle. And this features Danny Johnson of that 27 machine up against the pole sitter Billy Pouch. Now Pouch stopped fairly early along the running order and has had to battle his way back up through. And now challenging for the second spot. Will Cagle has taken his car behind the wall. And the veteran and one of the top stars in the history of dirt track racing will not complete the event here at Syracuse apparently. Jerry Garrett will have a word with Cagle in a moment as we watch second place Danny Johnson trying to hold off Billy Pouch. Pouch pitted on lap 43, so he's had to come up through the field and taken a longer time to do it.
He's secure on fuel, Mike. That's plenty late enough. He should have no problem whatsoever on fuel. Good fight for position right here, going through the second corner. You see the cars jump a little bit. There is a bump there going into the second turn, and that's what the jumping around is all about.
Jerry Garrett is on pit road with Will Cagle.
What took you out of the race, Will?
Something broke in the rear end. I don't know what it was, but it just went all of a sudden.
You had a good chance of moving up there and challenging for the lead, it looked like.
Yeah, we were going pretty good, but we had a pretty bad front end push, but that's racing.
One of the guys that's real popular with the fans, we'll hate to see him retire.
Cagle will take an administrative position with Drivers Independent Racetracks, the sanctioning body for this event. He only saw this car from the cockpit as late as Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
Wolfgang, the sprint car driver, was scheduled to run the car and decided to concentrate on his sprinter instead.
And he had zero practice in it, Mike, before he got it into the program. Not even one lap.
Second and third place battle right here. Danny Johnson moving up to lap one of the slower cars, Chuck Akulis. Right with him, Billy Pouch, the pole sitter. Pouch can go the distance easily. McCreedy, well, we continue to wonder. But he continues to step out and try to increase his lead over the second place machine. McCreedy is now entering turn 2 as the second place car is entering turn number 1. And second place, boy, does Johnson have his hands full with Billy Pouch. 5 seconds, 5.1 seconds now from this man, Bob McCreedy, back to the race for second spot. Back behind them, third is Jack Johnson, or check that, fourth is Jack Johnson, and fifth, Tommy Corellis. There's Danny Johnson. He's the second place machine. Billy Pouch riding along with him. Pouch was right up on his bumper.
Yeah, Johnson seems to run a little bit lower. Pouch, you see, is slipping up. It appears as if he's got the Syracuse push. That's a real problem here for many of the competitors. They turn the wheel left when they go in the corner. Oh, and Brett Hearn is in the pits. Brett Hearn, this is an unscheduled stop. This is not in the plan.
He's coming in slow. Bobby Hearn, the crew chief, and the rest of that Olsen Eagle crew coming over the wall to have word with their driver, the defending champion of this event. and he is shaking his head in frustration.
They thought they were going to win the race, Mike.
They're looking over the right front. 2 crew members set to push it off, but that's not to be. Hearn still shaking his head back and forth. And the crew, I don't think they know where to turn. Or indeed, if anything can be done.
Nothing being done with the car at all. This is terminal. Hearn has no chance now. It's over.
The defending winner of this race. Sideline. Jerry Garrett is on his way to Brett Hearn. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Bob McCreedy continues to hold sway by 5 full seconds. And oh, there's a young fella who is simply heartbroken. Earlier today, he won the 320 modified race. Was jubilant in victory lanes. 1 down, 1 to go. But it is not to be this afternoon.
Like he's washing his eyes. I wonder if he perhaps has calcium in them or dirt in them or something of that nature. The medical crew is there at this point. He also used a short muffler pipe, and I wonder if fumes had perhaps gotten to him. He is obviously feeling ill at the moment. He has got the safety crew with him.
Tom Wilson also on pit road. Let's go to Jerry Garrett in the pit of Brett Hearn.
Well, the problem right down here, Mike, is that Brett Hearn has been driving the whole race with a burning foot. They're pouring a bucket of water on his foot right now to try and cool it off. The intense heat from the car has just caused him excruciating pain the whole race. And that, not a mechanical problem, has taken him out of the race.
Perhaps that short exhaust pipe dumping out adjacent to the cockpit. Hearn having to fall out and literally limp away from Syracuse.
Ironically, he was worried about the steering wheel burning his hands. He had an aluminum steering wheel in the car, and he taped the aluminum steering wheel before the race because he was afraid it was going to get hot and burn him. And look, now his foot has put him out.
Those are fireproof shoes, but
they're covered with oil, too.
Yes. Tough break for Hearn. Jack Johnson now trying to hold Tommy Corellis. This is the race for 4th spot, and it's been a good one. Corellis in 5th. Boy, would he love to win at Syracuse. They call him the Bandit up in Lebanon Valley. One evening, he took a scarf, used it as a bandana to keep the dirt away from his nose and mouth. They nicknamed him the Bandit, and he has been ever since. And he has stolen a lot of races up there.
Yeah, this is not one of the new cars in the field, Mike. This car is 2 years old.
What was the 6th place car is on pit road. Tom Wilson, car number 113, and that car's been in there for a lap or 2. There's the right foot of Brett Hearn. Wilson had a 4th place finish here. Hearn, last year's winner, is out. Jerry Garrett is with him.
Brett, we wonder if we can get a word with you for a minute. You got a tough time in the race, Brett. How's your foot?
I had to pull in. I couldn't feel my foot anymore. It was a combination of an oil leak and a piece of exhaust system that goes through the cockpit. And we ran it all year, but it's just too hot. I was afraid I might, just black out or something. It just got to that point where I couldn't feel my foot anymore.
That's a hard way to go out of the race. You can stand being beat on the racetrack. You can stand being beat on pit road. You can stand it when something breaks. But the configuration of that automobile is what did in Brett Hearn today.
And that's a tough way to go out of a race. You're absolutely right, Mike. He is devastated, just really unhappy about this.
Everybody that comes here to Syracuse to try to win figures that they have to do so many trick things to their race car to make them better than everyone else's. And it appears that car in that one area was just a little too trick.
Yeah.
And it hurt Brett Hearn and knocked him out.
Well, McCready's car is working very, very well, and that is also a very trick car. He is sliding past traffic on the outside, apparently quite effortlessly.
Jack Johnson, boy, would he love to win this for the 3rd time and tie the record. The Gene DeWitt machine, and Gene is here on hand to see the car run. So is motor builder Jack Tant.
He was 2nd here last year. He's won this race in 2 different brands of car, a Troyer and a Kneisel, and this is the first time ever he's tried to run in this race with an Olsen Eagle. 3rd different brand he's trying with.
Having a good run here today. Little shy of the front spot. Here's the man that is leading, Bob McCreedy. The man who holds the record here, Gary Ballou, not here this weekend. Ballou has won this event 3 straight times, 76 through 78. Also won it in 1980 for 4 victories total.
The starter has got a flag that tells these cars to go down if they are lapped.
Looking at Jack Johnson closing it up. trying to on McCreedy. There's a lapped car he's going to have to deal with. That's Danny Johnson, excuse me, in 27. Jack in the similarly painted number 12. Danny Johnson in second. Billy Pouch is third, the pole sitter. Jack Johnson is fourth. Tommy Corellis is fifth. Alan Johnson has climbed up to that sixth spot. Danny Johnson working well. That car does not seem to lean over in the corners as much as some of the cars that have been running up toward the front today.
It does appear to be a little bit more stiff.
There's McCreedy coming off the turn number 2, headed into the back straightaway past a sea of campers here at Syracuse, New York. His lead has been cut by a second by this man, Danny Johnson, trying to run down McCreedy, who is 4 seconds ahead of Johnson.
Johnson's a good racer, Mike. He's finished second, and he is in second position in the overall points in 1986 for the dirt track modifieds.
Danny Johnson, fifth here in 1982, his best finish. In the 4 years he's been attempting to win the Miller 200 here at Syracuse. See the huge crowd that's gathered here, the biggest in all of dirt track stock car racing.
And a lot of them have been here for almost the entire week. Some have camped out in tents, others have brought campers. Every motel for about 50 or 60 miles is just full to capacity with race fans. This is the biggest week of the whole year for an awful lot of people, and not just the drivers, the fans too.
You walk through the grandstand and you see a lot of folks wearing the patches of the various tracks that make up the Drivers International Racetrack Series through the northeastern United States. But too, you see many folks who only attend this one dirt race a year, and their jackets carry the logos of Winston Cup cars and Indy cars, and no matter what type of racing they're a fan of, they know that Syracuse is the major event for these type of automobiles. And the main grandstand is packed to capacity. It was sold out as of a week ago. They closed the infield this morning. Hardly a space to be had for anybody left to get in and see this race.
There's Jack Johnson working traffic, trying to get through. Traffic is a real problem late in the race because many of the cars have slowed considerably. And the faster cars, the cars that are still capable of winning this race, have to slide by. Johnson now trying to get by Dave Lape on the inside. Lape holding him off. Lape's back bumper is well pushed in. Apparently somebody tried to get by beating on that back bumper.
Here's
and
trouble.
We've got a crash.
Out in the corner, Chuck Aculis in turn number 2. It comes to a rest against the rail. Looks like his right rear may be down. The bumper badly pushed in. Aculis' car without power comes to a halt, and we have the 7th caution of the day.
That left side frame rail is right down on the ground. He has got a suspension problem with that car, Mike. The whole left side is just dropped right down to the racetrack. Chuck Aculis, now that he's caused the yellow flag, he's going to go around nice and slowly and get into the pit area if he can.
This will be a break for Danny Johnson and the rest of the leaders. McCready's 4-second advantage will evaporate with this caution flag. Tom Mayberry makes a quick pit stop under the caution. And you're watching the man who may yet again lead the most laps here at Syracuse, as he did in 1985. While we're under caution, here's Jerry Garrett on pit road.
Well, Mike, Tom Mayberry's pit stop may be significant. He's one of the guys, if you remember, that pitted right about the same time that McCreedy did. He needed more fuel. That's why he stopped. What will McCreedy do? We'll have to see.
There is McCreedy. No gas gauge in these cars.
No, there's none at all, and they are required by the rules of the Speedway to have only 22 gallons of fuel. They cannot have any more. That's all they're allowed to have, and many of the competitors work hard on trying to get the most of the fuel out of their car in through the engine. So although one of the competitors may have pulled out, there still may be plenty of gas in the 9 car.
Here's a look at Rick Jeffrey. He is a journeyman racer, competes just about all over the country. Running here at Syracuse. He is the 9th place car, Jeffrey, and has had a good afternoon here at Syracuse. He's one of the top runners on the ARCA Super Speedway circuit. He'll run pavement, he'll run dirt, he'll run just about anywhere and anything. His best finish here, 6th in 1983.
5 cars on pit road now, none of them in contention to win. Some of the competitors are taking this opportunity to work over their car, and hopefully they can get a little bit more speed and blow by a few of the other cars to try to get up further.
Well, beg to differ. Here's Alan Johnson in the pit lane, along with, there's the Dick Larkin car getting fuel late in the race. Alan Johnson was 9th when he came to pit road. There's Larkin. There's the 3J of Aculis that brought out the caution flag, and he's climbing out. Larkin wheels away right behind Alan Johnson. And also coming off the pit road, Don McGuinness, the car that did not qualify for this race but was voted in by the press. There's Rick Burgess coming off the pit road, and getting set to go racing is Bob McCreedy. Single file restarts after the halfway point. McCreedy takes him through 3 and comes sliding off 4. McCreedy, Danny Johnson, and the pole sitter Billy Pouch to battle it out over the last 27 laps here at Syracuse. 7 caution flags have marred the race and turned out some interesting strategy. Treble in 2, a wheel over the fence, and 1 car comes to rest. That is Mike McLaughlin. The man they call Magic Shoes has done most of his racing on asphalt the last 2 years, but he winds up backed into the fence, and a wheel went up over the fence, bounced off the roof of one of the fair buildings, the poultry building, scattered some feathers, and came to rest out in the parking lot.
There are 3 cars, Mike, that are virtually identically painted. This is one of them. One of them was involved in a crash earlier, and here is McLaughlin also crashed. Tough deal.
Mike McLaughlin against the fence. That's the Cliff Barkham car. And McLaughlin, I don't believe he's run another dirt race this year.
He is not. The last time he ran dirt was right here at Syracuse. He has really turned his attention to running pavement, where he has been very successful running pavement modifieds.
He drives the Sherry Cups car for Bill Carrazzo on the NASCAR circuit. His best finish, 10th here in 1980, although he's been a good qualifier at this racetrack. And not too many people were surprised to see him in the top 6. The first day qualifiers for this race, even after a year's layoff. There is Dick Larkin back in. That left rear tire won't hold air. He's been as high as the 9th place car, and every caution they have to pit him, put more air in the left rear. They're also making an adjustment inside the cockpit. Larkin not looking terribly pleased. He's got the helmet off now, and the gloves.
That's it.
Next
Larkin's
will be
done.
the belts.
Yep, he's done.
Well, the problem must be more serious than a flat tire. That can easily be changed.
Yeah, it can. Larkin's through. He's got terminal troubles.
So the track they call the Moody Mile, as it changes throughout the day, claims yet another victim. Larkin's car out of the event. Mike McLaughlin has climbed out of his car. He's okay after losing a wheel up and over the fence at turn 2 and into the hen house.
That's Larkin, sitting in the car, dejected. You see how dirty these men are when they get out of the cars. Their faces are all dirty. Their eyes are filled up with mud. It gets very hard to see here as this race wears on. There's a lot of calcium on the racetrack that's put there in order to keep the dirt down so that it isn't dusty, and that gets into your eyes, gets into your face. Larkin couldn't care less about what his eyes feel like right now, though. He would just rather be out there racing.
25 laps to go as the field comes past. The leader, heading up toward turn number 3, is Bob McCreedy. As the records come off and we're set to go back to green, there is McCreedy. Riding second is Danny Johnson. Third, Billy Pouch. In 4th is Jack Johnson. In 5th, Tommy Corellis. Running along in 6th, they get the green flag for the restart, is Charlie Rudolph. In 7th, C.D. Colville. And in 8th, Rick Jeffrey. Those cars are on the lead lap. 1 lap down are Kenny Johnson, along with Kevin Collins and Alan Johnson. That takes you through the top 10 as we have 24 laps to go. McCreedy takes him through 3, out of turn number 4 and back into the front stretch. Trouble up in 4. Corellis is in the wall. The 5th place car, Tommy Corellis, in the fence as the leader takes the caution. That is a heartbreaker. Corellis, a lot of people came to see him finally have a chance to win this race here today.
He was trying to effect a pass on the outside, Mike. He just got into the loose stuff where there was contact between the 2 cars, and boy, he pounded the wall a good one.
There is Corellis. We asked him earlier if anybody, he's out of this race in the last 30 laps, and we asked him earlier if anybody could win this race within the last 30 laps. He said, sure, depends on how the caution flags would fall. Well, they fell. Caution flag number 8 fell for him.
He's watching up the racetrack. He may have a conversation with another competitor. There it is. Why'd you do that to me? Why'd you